Hey yo, welcome back to MBK Reacts, bringing you another installment to the What If series. Right. What do y'all know about that? What do y'all know about that?
I know niggas be angry.
Okay. Yo! Alright, so we watched Greed, Pride, and which one did we watch? Greed, Pride. No, this is our third one.
Yeah, it's our third one.
Greed, Pride. Yeah, this is our third one, right? We got Gluttony next. Hey, put in the comments who has Gluttony, because I haven't seen it on his channel yet, but I've seen other people do Gluttony. So if there's another good channel that does it like him, explains it like him, please tell me in the comments, because you know, I'm trying to watch it. But we're about to jump into this next one, so you know what to do. If you like type content, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, turn the bell on for our ReZero playlist so you get notified when we upload a new What If series next. Episode starting in 3, 2, 1, go. First off, shout out to Extra Nut. Videos are amazing. Alright, 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, 100 million times.
ReZero is full of moments where the story could have easily diverged onto a completely different path, and these moments are indicated by Subaru's ideologies being tested. In the end, Subaru always seems to overcome his mental conflict and eventually becomes an amazing character. However, every year on Subaru's birthday, the author releases a spin-off story explaining what would have happened if Subaru chose the wrong path. Today, we will cover Oboreru, the Wrath If story. The story itself contains like 1 or 2 spoilers, but I've decided to make them as vague as humanly possible because I wanted this video to be safe to watch for all the anime-onlys out there. This means that I will be skipping and glossing over certain details that pertain to spoilers. So I'd like to remind everyone that
this did come out a year ago,
to get the full experience of this story would be to actually read it yourself. That being said, before we start this narration, let's quickly discuss where exactly Subaru faces the ideological conflict that leads him to this route. As I said before, these potential points of divergence are all indicated by a test. The ending of episode 7 is one of these times where Subaru is being tested. This was the episode where Rem dies from the shaman's curse and Rom tries to kill Subaru for being all suspicious. She chases him outside and prepares to kill him, but Beatrice interferes and offers to protect Subaru. This is the moment where Subaru had a choice to make.
His first choice was to kill himself.
Subaru could accept Beatrice's assistance and engage Rom in combat. He could be patient, jump off the cliff, and simply restart from his last save point. Obviously, Subaru made the right choice. He strengthened his resolve and jumped off the cliff because he was patient enough to keep dying over and over until everyone he cared about was safe. In Oboreru, this doesn't happen. Subaru allows himself to be influenced by wrath instead of patience, and it changes the ReZero story entirely. This is Oboreru, the Wrath If story.
I'm scared.
Instead of jumping off the cliff, Subaru accepts Beatrice's offer to protect him from Rom. Subaru escapes into the forest, but eventually Rom catches up with him. The story begins with Subaru's body flailing around on the floor as Rom is choking him to death. Too weak to fight back, Subaru's just about ready to accept his death when suddenly Rom lets go of his neck. Coughing up blood, Subaru realizes that Rom has collapsed from exhaustion. You see, while she was chasing him through the forest, she got attacked by countless demon dogs along the way. The amount of wounds on her body would have normally killed her, but her hatred for Subaru was strong enough to keep her alive. Subaru notes that even with her body covered in cuts and gashes, Rom was still very beautiful, but that didn't matter right now. She was trying to kill him and she failed. Subaru had beaten her. Gazing down at her motionless body, Subaru picks up a large rock with both his hands and lifts it up into the air. The sound of the rock hitting her skull was so loud that it echoed throughout the forest. This marks the first of a long series of violent acts committed by Subaru as he journeys deeper into wrath. The next scene of this chapter takes place 2 years in the future, so before I get to that, let me go ahead and explain everything that's happened since then. Subaru continued spiraling out of control down the path of sin and eventually ended up founding a criminal organization called
I remember this one.
In just 2 years, Pleiades had already become infamous throughout the ReZero world, and Subaru's reputation as a villain had spread around as well. Working for Subaru's organization are a number of successful mercenaries, as well as two of the strongest characters in all of ReZero.
Wait.
Those two close at his side for protection, because on his own he's still pretty weak. But
Who's
as
the
their boss,
dog?
he's ordered them to murder countless victims,
That's-
often without reason. They currently reside at
Wait,
the
the
Pleiades
strongest
headquarters,
characters
which
in
is a
ReZero?
large castle called Pandemonium. Most of Subaru's
That
days
sounds
are
so
spent
clean.
in Pandemonium's reception hall, sitting atop a luxurious throne, but occasionally he would leave Pandemonium if he had some business to take care of elsewhere.
And notice how
The next
his
scene
room
in
is like named
Oboreru
after
takes
stars.
place at the Roswell
How am I
mansion.
gonna-
Because Roswell no longer had Rom and Rem, he ended up hiring someone named Frederica. Frederica was briefly shown in Season 1 for about half a second, so if you don't know who Frederica is, she's a demi-human who used to be another one of Roswell's maids back in the day. Anyway, Frederica was rehired as a maid to make up for the loss of Rom and Rem, but despite that, the mansion was never really the same since the day of their passing. Rom and Rem were extremely important to Roswell.
That seems
Rom
so
in
funny.
particular was very special to him. Without her, Roswell himself was incomplete. He felt as if his own life had lost all purpose. Many times Frederica tried to cheer him up, but nothing could penetrate Roswell's force field of despair. Puck, on the other hand, was more angry than he was depressed. He believed that the mansion was no longer a safe environment for Amelia, and he was upset with Roswell for allowing that to happen. Puck is currently arguing with Frederica in the hallway, and he starts to badmouth Roswell. This offends Frederica greatly because as a maid, she can't allow someone to insult the owner of the mansion. So in response, Frederica decides to get aggressive with Puck. Obviously, this doesn't end well for Frederica. Before she can even make her first move, Puck turns her into an ice sculpture.
Yeah.
Roswell finds Frederica still alive, trying to resist the cold, and feels obligated to save her. He starts charging up a powerful spell when suddenly he just barely manages to dodge the sword slash that was aimed for his neck. The attack was carried out with incredible speed, so Roswell's quick reaction to evade it was remarkable. The voice coming from behind Roswell sounded surprised by the impressive dodge. The assassin was a blue-haired young man with two swords at his waist. One scabbard was blue and the
looks
other was
clean.
red. Pausing the narration for just a second, Cecilis is a character that hasn't appeared in the main story other than his name being mentioned, but a lot of people suspect that he might
name
show
was
up in a future arc someday, so technically information about Cecilis would not be considered a spoiler as of right now, but in a couple years it could be, I guess. So I hope none of you are that sensitive to potential spoilers, but I wanted to put a warning out just in case. And
it's a
just for
dislike.
reference,
It's a
the
dislike.
very
Yeah,
earliest
that's
this
good.
character could ever possibly show up in the main story would be around Season 5. So, anyway,
That's like
Cecilis
7
is
years.
nicknamed
That's so
Blue
long.
Lightning. He's the highest ranking god general of the Wallachia Empire,
God-
which is the kingdom
God
just south
general?
of Lagunica. I'm not going to go too in depth, but he's one of the strongest characters in ReZero, and he attacks with lightning speed, so that's why it was so impressive for Roswell to dodge.
That's kinda
his
scary.
I hate
attacks.
you.
Anyway,
Bro,
back to
this
the
this
story.
won't be shown until
Roswell
7 or 8
recognizes
years.
a young man, and the two of them exchange dialogue, but as they're talking, Roswell realizes his left arm had been cut off in
Wow.
the attack. Without hesitation, he cups the wound with his remaining hand, cauterizing it with a small burst of fire magic. Despite the intense pain, Roswell's dialogue continues. He suspects that Cecilis must be leading the Wallachian army to invade Lagunica, but Cecilis corrects him, explaining that he's actually working for someone else now. Knowing he's about to kill Roswell anyway, Cecilis decides to tell him the truth. He's been working for someone known as the Purge King. Roswell grows suspicious and asks for the name of this Purge King. Cecilis hesitates at first, but eventually gives him the answer. At the same time the name left his lips, he cut through Roswell like a flash of lightning. Roswell smiled as he heard the name, and then everything went black. His last thought before dying was of the twins that used to be his maids.
Damn.
And with that, Roswell died unhappy with his desires unfulfilled.
I can't say I'm sad for it.
Beatrice
Roswell was a
trembled in
dickhead
fear as she heard a familiar voice. Standing in the doorway, Subaru calmly says hello. His face looked a lot scarier than she remembered, and his manner of speaking now had a blank tone to it. The two of them talk for a bit, and Subaru thanks her for protecting him that day at the edge of the cliff.
Damn.
At the time, Subaru was certain he would die, but because Beatrice didn't give up on him, he was able to survive. Subaru thanks her again, but also asks her the question, back then, why didn't you kill me? Beatrice didn't answer, but silently came to a realization. Subaru understood it too, as he says to her, "You and I, Beatrice, we are the same. Inside Beatrice and inside Subaru, there was a disease called despair quietly nesting. While the two of them were talking, a third person in the room suddenly appeared out of nowhere.
No.
It was the wondrous technique of a ninja, being able to hide in the shadows without anyone noticing. He was a shabby-looking wolf human with a pipe hanging out of his mouth. It was clear that he was extremely powerful and far, far stronger than the frightened Beatrice was. Hannibal, bring me a sword, Subaru orders the wolf
Why,
human.
Subaru?
Subaru takes the blade and walks up to Beatrice with a smile on his face. He tells her, "With all those colors you wear, you are very pretty, you know." Beatrice stares at Subaru as she starts to cry. Trembling and shaking, she asks him a strange question that this version of Subaru will never know the meaning of. Perhaps if his life had turned out differently, he would have understood what she was asking him, but regardless, he still tried his best to give her a comforting answer. And then, as her last set of tears hit the floor, Subaru kills Beatrice with his blade.
Damn.
So you guys are either one, and he basically said yes. That's crazy.
So for anyone who didn't understand what just happened, the Roswell mansion was no longer a safe
surprised he
environment for Amelia
actually
to
has
stay
control
in,
over
so
two of the
Puck
most
and
powerful
Subaru formed a plan
characters
to kill everyone in the
in the
mansion
series.
and then bring Amelia back to
So
Subaru's
how
castle.
powerful is he right
Two
now?
new characters, Cecilis and Hannibal, are Subaru's most trusted allies, so he ordered Cecilis to kill Roswell and told Hannibal to help him with Beatrice. Everything went according to plan, and they rescued Amelia, and on their way back, they actually took Frederica with them as well, because they needed a maid.
Damn.
Pandemonium was a large building, so there was a lot of work for Frederica to do as the new maid. Not only did she have to cook and clean for everyone, but she also had to clean up the messes Subaru would make. For example, an elderly merchant arrived at Pandemonium to discuss business with the organization, and he made sure to be very polite and delicate with his words, taking care not to offend Subaru. In the end, Subaru appeared to be satisfied with the meeting, but as the merchant was on his way out, Subaru flipped a coin.
Damn.
Tails, he said, and that was the last thing the old man heard
Ah,
before he was decapitated by Hannibal.
Oh, okay.
Frederica was disgusted by Subaru's actions, and she vocalized her frustration as she disposed of the man's corpse, but Subaru wasn't happy with Frederica's
She's
disrespect.
next.
So later that night, when she brought him his dinner, he flipped another coin as she was leaving. Heads, he said. Don't worry, Frederica. Your family is safe.
Oh, wow.
Frederica left the room with tears in her eyes, wondering why her life had ended up like this.
Imagine if someone with that much power just walks up to you and says, alright, let's see if you get to live
The
today.
Purge King truly was the physical embodiment of fear itself. Just being in the same room as him was enough to make someone physically sick. Oftentimes, he would let a person's fate be decided by the result of a coin flip. Heads they live, tails they die. The slightest annoyance, even by one of his own men, would sometimes be a death sentence. Even his most trusted allies, Hannibal and Cecilis, would occasionally have their lives threatened.
Huh?
In the deepest part of the building, there was a heavily guarded room that housed Amelia, whom everyone referred to as the princess.
How do you do
Amelia
that?
wasn't allowed to leave
He
the
must be
room.
powerful
She had
as
no
hell.
visitors.
Can't die.
Subaru needed a therapeutic lap pillow,
Even-
which was
even
about
still,
once
though, it's
every
like,
10 days.
How are
Stressed
they?
about
How
his
are
job,
they? How are they
sobbing
alive
into
threatening and
Amelia's
they haven't
lap
done
was the
anything
only
to
thing
you?
that could calm Subaru down. But when Subaru wasn't paying her a visit, she was all alone with Puck for 24 hours a day, and she wasn't sure if she resented Subaru for that. Her previous life was filled with humiliation and helplessness. She dropped out of the royal selection after Ram and Rem died and abandoned her dream of creating a world without discrimination.
Oh, wow.
Amelia had become depressed living at the Roswell mansion, until Subaru rescued her and brought her back to live with him at Pandemonium. Now she spends her life locked in a cage, with plenty of time to wonder if her new life is preferable to her old one.
What?
Now remember, Roswell was a pretty important person in Lagunica, so news of his death spread all over the place once it went public, and it became clear to everyone that the Purge King was the one responsible
Excuse
for
me.
it. So the Kingdom of Lagunica decides to deploy a group of knights to Pandemonium and finally put an end to the
No,
Purge organization.
if I gotta
In the
see
middle
how
of
powerful
Pandemonium's reception hall, a blinding light swallowed the entire
these
room
two
and then shattered.
ninjas are. Reinhardt
18 of
is considered
Subaru's
the most
men were
powerful.
vaporized by the attack, and the structure of the building began to collapse. This was but a single blow from none other than the Sword Saint himself. Lagunica was desperate to subjugate the villainous Purge King, so they had no choice but to send Reinhardt van Estrella to complete the task. As the dust clears, Reinhardt is surprised to find Subaru unharmed, sitting on his throne with Hannibal and Silas at his side. I saw your attack once before at the loot house, so I've had plenty of time to prepare for it, Subaru says with a smile. Reinhardt hadn't realized until now that the Purge King was Natsuki Subaru, so this was a shock to him. Already bored of Reinhardt, Subaru decides to let Silas deal with him on his own. Hannibal grabs Subaru and the two of them escape into the shadows together. Left alone in the room with Silas, Reinhardt tries to reason with him. In the past, Reinhardt has beaten Silas once before, but Silas didn't care. Defeating Reinhardt was his only desire, and today he was ready to fight him to the death. He reaches down to his waist and draws both of his katanas, naming them as he does so. The Fiend Sword and the Dream Sword. Two of Zero's 10 legendary swords of power. In response, Reinhardt does the same with his own weapon.
He has a dragon sword.
Dragon sword. Hearing the sound of that glowing white sword being drawn, there was no mistake that it was in fact the legendary dragon sword carried by the Sword Saint, only to be unsheathed when faced with a worthy opponent. Obviously, the sword considered Silas a worthy opponent. Silas gives his name, and the battle commences.
He has two legendary swords.
Amelia could feel the tremors echoing
No,
inside
I gotta see how
her.
powerful Hannibal is.
This is the end, Leah. Reinhardt is here to kill Subaru, Puck tells her. Earthquakes from the epic battle had broken Amelia's door, allowing her to leave her room for the first time ever. She desperately runs through the castle searching for Subaru, but after a while she runs into Reinhardt instead. She's a bit shocked by his appearance. Reinhardt looked incredibly weakened, and his entire body was covered in dripping wounds. Equally as surprising, he was also holding the dragon sword in his hand. Reinhardt didn't have much time to talk, so he quickly urges Amelia to get outside as they had a dragon carriage waiting to bring her back to Lagunica. But Amelia didn't want to leave. She had already made up her mind, and she was staying here with Subaru no matter what. Still, Reinhardt begs her to leave the building immediately when suddenly a sword of ice pierces clean through his abdomen, making him cough up blood and fall to his knees. Both Reinhardt and Amelia were shocked at what just occurred. Reinhardt was supposed to have divine protections that should have blocked the attack, but because Amelia did it unconsciously, Reinhardt's blessings couldn't detect it.
Oh wow.
Yes, Amelia unconsciously created an ice sword and stuck it through Reinhardt.
Damn.
Realizing this, Amelia started to understand. It was because Reinhardt's existence was a threat to Subaru, so stabbing Reinhardt was her unconscious mind attempting to protect Subaru. Please, Reinhardt, leave Subaru alone,
She got
Amelia
Stockholm
says,
syndrome or something?
to which Reinhardt replies, that is not possible. Realizing she has no choice but to fight the Sword Saint, Amelia calls for Puck to help her out. Puck appears and unleashes a gust of wind that freezes the air, forcing Reinhardt to jump backwards. With one last attempt at negotiation, Reinhardt informs Amelia that Subaru had been responsible for over 126,000 deaths.
That's my boy.
Amelia wasn't aware of any of this, but it didn't matter. She wasn't going to give up on Subaru no matter what.
Oh yeah, that's Stockholm syndrome.
Reinhardt stands and gives his name. And then Amelia gives hers as well. The Witch of Glaciation, the Beast of the Apocalypse, and the Sword Saint began their battle.
The Witch
the Beast of the Apocalypse
Was destroyed by a white shockwave. As Subaru runs through the collapsing mansion,
Why
he's
is this
attacked by
also
Frederica,
clean?
but Hannibal shoves her against the wall with such force that it breaks her arm. Subaru decides to spare her life, and he dismisses Hannibal as well. It was clear that the Pleiades organization was ending before his eyes, so Subaru encourages Hannibal to leave the castle and continue his life somewhere else. Subaru thanks him and says goodbye, and then continues through the mansion on his own.
I gotta see how powerful
Suddenly,
Hannibal
he
is.
hears Amelia's voice, which confuses him as she was supposed to be locked in her room on the opposite side of the building. At this point, it's unclear what happened with Puck and Reinhardt, but Amelia is still alive with minimal injuries. She runs up and hugs Subaru and begs him to run away with her. She explains that she did resent him at first for what he did to her, but it didn't matter anymore. Even after she learned of all the evil acts he committed as the Purge King, Amelia had forgiven him for all of it.
Stockholm.
And something about that made Subaru distrust her. How could anyone forgive him for all of the horrible things he's done? It's impossible, he thought. Subaru shoves her across the hallway and calls her a liar. All his other thoughts disappeared. Everything in his head.
Imagine having to read that. I mean, like, obviously,
Subaru watches in horror. Amelia's color slowly fades to gray. He starts to scream in agony as Amelia's silver hair and amethyst eyes turn to black and white.
Oh, that's guts.
A detail I chose not to include in the summary until now, but basically at some point early on in the story, Subaru lost the ability to see color. Everything was black and white except for a few people.
Damn,
what
Betty,
he says to Beatrice
Amelia.
before he kills her? With all those colors you wear, you are very pretty, you know.
He probably
Beatrice
ran.
was one of the only things left in the world that still had color for Subaru. Everything else that was black and white, he considered a lie. Even Hannibal and Cecilis were black and white.
Oh, wow.
Reinhardt he expected to at least have a hint of color, but no. He was black and white as well. They were all fake to Subaru. The only people that still had their color were Beatrice and Amelia. Subaru killed Beatrice, and now Amelia had just lost her color. So now the entire world was black and white for Subaru. Well, almost the entire world. There was one person that still had their color. One last opportunity for Subaru to see something other than black and white. One last thing.
Elsa?
Trust.
Oh, Ram?
So Subaru leaves Amelia behind and starts running through the building. He was running to the one person he could still trust, the only person he had left. It felt like he was drowning, and they were the only thing he could grab onto. Subaru finally reaches his personal office. This room was just about as heavily guarded as Amelia's room, and that was because it contained something just as important.
I'm assuming
The
you still
office
kept
had a
their corpse.
secret room attached. Behind the bookshelf, there was a door that could only be opened by Subaru. He slowly presses it open. Behind the door rings the sound of chains connected to the wall. Then he saw it. Her eyes were the color of blood. Are you ready to die, Barusu? The pink-haired woman, with hatred in her eyes, looked up at Subaru
She should have
and
been dead.
smiled. The end.
He had her locked up the whole time and said, I'll wait for you to be rated.
Subaru in the Roswell mansion ended up traumatizing him, giving him extreme trust issues that basically ruined his life. He became a monster who the entire world was scared of, but deep down, Subaru was the one who was actually scared. He'd have panic attacks and would often self-harm to calm himself down. Subaru's trust issues eventually led to his vision being limited to black and white. The few people he trusted would retain their color, but eventually, Rom was the only one left. All she had was hatred for Subaru, but in the end, that very hatred was the only thing Subaru could trust. And remember, this was all the result of Subaru not wanting to jump off the cliff and simply restart the loop. Patience is a virtue, and if Subaru had understood that, then he would have been able to save Rom and Rem, and more importantly, himself. Anyway, there's a lot of information we got from this story, so I'm going to start with Cecilis and Hannibal, two of the strongest characters in ReZero who hopefully will one day appear in the main story. Hannibal isn't as strong as Cecilis, but that's because he's a ninja character. Anywhere you see a shadow, Hannibal could be hiding in it and no one would know. He's an excellent assassin, but if you put him out in an open field, he's not going to be as effective as Cecilis would. So how exactly did Subaru manage to recruit two of the strongest characters in ReZero? Well, at least for Hannibal, it was because of Return by Death. Remember that from an outsider's perspective, Subaru would appear to be either extremely lucky or some kind of genius. Hannibal picked up on this and started noticing Subaru's odd predictions. He appeared to have some sort of gift. Whether it was an actual ability or just incredible insight didn't really matter. The point was, Hannibal learned to trust and value Subaru's judgment. Now, Cecilis, on the other hand, would consider using Return by Death a cowardly tactic, as he believes that preparation is for the weak. Cecilis had actually been loyal to the Empire the entire time. The Emperor himself, his name's Vincent, he's actually the one that told Cecilis to go work for Subaru. And by the way, to put Cecilis's power into perspective, the author actually confirmed that if Reinhardt were to have a fight with the sun, Reinhardt would win. He would win a fight with the sun. And yet, Cecilis was able to inflict pretty significant damage.
What kind of character is
He was able
Reinhardt?
to damage Reinhardt, He was worthy of the Dragon Sword Reed, and he was able to kill Roswaal almost instantly.
So you're
I think
saying
that alone
Reinhardt
speaks
is
for
the
how
strongest
strong
character
Silas
so
really
far in the
is.
series.
But in the
Not so
end,
far.
Reinhardt still defeated him, and
Stronger
then
than
got
Hector,
stabbed by
stronger than
Amelia.
that one witch.
Now that was weird. Yes, Amelia stabbed Reinhardt. Because Amelia wasn't consciously aware
Yeah,
of her
Reinhardt had to
actions,
fight for
Reinhardt's
Simon.
divine protections
What?
couldn't stop her attack. This was the first time
What?
we've ever
What
heard
the-
of a potential weakness that Reinhardt might have.
Reinhardt's
And just
Wait.
for anyone that was wondering, it was never stated whether or not Amelia and Puck were worthy of the Dragon Sword. It was Cecilis that was worthy, and Reinhardt just never put it back away after he drew it. So that's why he was able to use it against Puck and Amelia, which, by the way, the conclusion of that fight isn't known either. All we know is that Amelia survived. I'm assuming that Amelia let Puck face Reinhardt alone while she went to look for Subaru, but who knows, maybe they killed him. I'd be
Now
interested to
they're
hear
like,
what you
fuck
guys
it,
think.
Reinhardt.
My personal guess is that Reinhardt won, but that's just me. Another thing, Amelia was referred to as the Witch of Glaciation, and I do think that title
Beast
is very
of the
badass,
Air.
but I don't think it really means anything. It probably wasn't referring to Amelia as one of the literal witches of sin, because obviously ice isn't a sin, so let's not get too excited about that. The last part I want to talk about is the ending. We kind of got left with a cliffhanger, but I think it's obvious that Rom ends up killing Subaru. Now what happens after that, we can only speculate. Does Subaru die a permanent death, or does he use Return by Death? And if so, where does he return to? My guess is that he does die a permanent death, but I would like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I do read all of them, by the way.
Huh?
I really enjoyed this If story. It's been so long since I read Oboreru the first time, I think I forgot how good it actually was. The new characters were amazing, we got some nice world building, and a bunch of interesting information. The story itself was very
really
well
good.
written, especially in terms of thematic significance, and once again guys, the only way to get the full experience would be to read the story yourself. A lot of details were left out from this video, and if I had narrated the actual story word for word, this video would have been several hours long. At the moment, I'd say this is probably my second or third favorite If story, and I honestly can't decide which one I should cover next, so if you guys want to
His
help me
favorite has
out
to be
with
the
that,
round one.
then you can leave me a comment below.
It probably
I
is.
hope
I
everyone
mean, I only
enjoyed
has
the
4
video.
parts.
Make sure you give it
So
a
it
like
must
if
be
you
good.
did, but most importantly, keep talking about ReZero. Don't let the hype die down. I'm out,
Yes, sir,
guys.
I got you, bro. Wait, why the music get loud? Hold on.
Like,
It's automatically confirmed Reinhardt is stronger than Goku, Rimuru, all of them niggas, because can they beat the sun?
Yeah, Rimuru can. There's no way Reinhardt is not stronger than Rimuru. Rimuru can literally.
he said,
Can Goku beat the sun?
no.
Yeah, he can. He can destroy the sun, but he can't survive in space, so it really wouldn't matter if he did that shit.
Well, no, like if he hit the sun and it blew up, he died. Where
Well, I don't know if they're trying to say if Reinhardt gets hit by impact and stronger than the fucking sun, he's gonna die.
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know. It seems like if he fought the sun, so how else will the sun fight?
I don't fucking
By
know. What the
impact?
author, I really don't know what the fuck the author meant by that, but the nigga sounds stupid.
Wow! How you gonna call the
If my
author
character
stupid?
fights the sun, my character's gonna win. How does that even make sense?
I think
So you're telling me if a nigga came down with the power of the sun, like one punch was a power of the sun exploding, Reinhardt's beating that nigga? No, he's not. That's bullshit.
well, it seems like he could. Seems like he could. And he only lost because Amelia unconsciously killed him, and he's guard with him.
I gotta see how Hannibal would like look in a fight if he had like a fair
That nigga
advantage.
said you already lost.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he'll beat.
He'll get
anybody.
his ass
Who,
whooped.
Hannibal?
No,
Yeah,
Reinhardt.
if it was in type of shadow environment.
Yeah, if it was in an environment,
But Reinhardt get rid of all them
benefit from.
shadows when his sword lights
Sure,
up.
that's why Subaru probably told him to run away.
Yeah, that'd be true.
Then
Okay,
Fred's arm's broken.
so Reinhardt would still just body him
That's
too.
crazy. That nigga said he's the strongest nigga of the 9 celestial commanders or something.
Yeah,
The
That
nine
nigga-
and we don't know
This shit
nothing
banged
about
up.
that.
We don't know anything about the other god
But he was
generals.
fucked up though from that fade, but he still fucked that nigga.
Yeah, and we really don't know what happened again with either. Wait, I'm pretty sure it was confirmed. Reinhardt killed Puck in that one episode when he fought because Puck was going to destroy the world. So I'm pretty sure it's confirmed Reinhardt killed Puck then. But we don't know the end of this fight.
Yeah,
Well, we
especially
don't
since Reinhardt was like pretty much like almost done. Like if anything, he probably had like 2 more moves in him, and like he was dead. But those 2 moves those two moves could definitely probably kill Puck before he died.
I'm not gonna lie, we don't really know if Silas died or not. I mean, that nigga just got knocked out. Because we don't really know what happened. He didn't confirm that Silas died. Like, he got his shit banged or whatever. Like, he could have just...
He definitely lost, but we just don't know if he did or not.
Yeah,
Come on, because he beat Elsa, but Elsa didn't die. You feel me?
I mean, any three of those characters could be Elsa.
Nah.
Yeah, no, Silas.
Oh no, Silas can kill Elsa because I'm pretty sure Elsa cannot beat Reinhardt.
No.
I'm not Reinhardt. Elsa cannot beat Rosewall.
Oh, no.
Really?
No.
I don't think she can.
Yeah, that nigga
She can't even beat
sliced
Garfield.
Rosewall shit.
Oh, yeah, she couldn't beat Garfield.
Wasn't she hurt before she fought Garfield?
Nah, she came in there full health.
Yeah, she was full
Remember
health
he came in there
because
and
Fredica
blocked the punch.
Yeah, Fredica couldn't touch Elsa. But then you also got to consider Elsa did save what's her name, her little sister, quote unquote sister. If it was probably a one-on-one, no distractions,
Oh yeah.
Elsa probably could have killed Garfield.
Probably, yeah.
Garfield.
But then Garfield knew about actually how to kill vampires too,
Oh, yeah.
quote unquote vampires, by the way, because some say in comics she's not really a vampire, she's just considered to be strong like a vampire or something like that.
I ain't gonna
I
lie,
really
Silas is my favorite character.
Nah, you can't say that.
Yes, I can.
Nah, we don't know nothing about.
I do know something about it.
Wait, I want to ask you this. How do you feel? Do you think Subaru, after getting killed by Ram, do you think he came back to life and restarted somewhere, or do you think that was a permanent death like the last one? I think it's a permanent
I
death.
think that was a permanent death because he either ran out of all options. Like, he didn't have nothing left in the world to hold on to.
Because I think again that's a death where he's satisfied with what he did.
Yeah, I was.
We're not satisfied, but like, it's like there's nothing left. So he's like, I'm not coming back. Fuck it. Because like, if you'd have came back, he still would have been black and white. He still would have seen Reinhardt would have still came for him. He still would have seen Amelia do some crazy shit. Like Amelia was still crazy. Like he already went too far past the point where Amelia could be saved.
Yeah, this was basically Amelia on that one episode where he ran away, and then came back, and she was crazy.
She was insane. Yeah. Dang. And
This
like,
was a clean ass Subaru.
and like
Yeah, this
Reinhardt,
was a solid ass Subaru.
and Reinhardt didn't have any
Color.
color in him too. Like that's kind of.
Oh yeah, because like, what was so Reinhardt must
kinda
not be
weird.
100% then.
What do you mean?
If Reinhardt didn't have any color in him, that means something with Reinhardt was not 100% honest. Like,
Yeah.
he was fake. Like he wasn't. I don't know what Subaru meant by that, but like maybe his feelings towards Subaru weren't real. That's why he was fake to him.
Yeah, I feel like Amelia
Oh,
was
not
like.
privileged.
I feel like since Amelia is so crazy, like she and she's like coping. She's like kind of like coping with like, oh, even though he did this, like because she has like she realistically has no one else. Like everyone's like racist to her, and no one really is gonna treat her
Why do you have to
And
kill
she never
Betty?
did the
like
job.
how Subaru.
Yeah.
It's the same thing like Beatrice. It's like Beatrice, realistically is like pure and like truthful. Like she has nothing to really lie about. Like what does she got to lie about?
Why do you have to kill Betty?
And like he killed her.
Yeah, why do you have to kill Peggy?
I don't know why he
would have
killed
brought
her.
her with me.
And it's the same thing. And that's the same thing like with Ren. Like Ren, he's gonna like Ren has nothing to hide either. And like it shows when he's looking and he's looking at her feelings and how she is towards Subaru, and Subaru sees that as the truth because realistically it's like she really just hates you. Like there's nothing else that she has to hide. Where it's like with even Reinhardt, maybe Reinhardt felt like there was still something left in Subaru, and Subaru didn't want to believe that. And so with Reinhardt, it's like he doesn't see anything truthful about Reinhardt because Reinhardt still sees that there's a chance for Subaru. But Subaru thinks since he's so far, since he's too far gone, that anyone who thinks that he has a chance is like a liar.
Oh yeah, he's like, how could you forgive me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Because he saw Amelia with color at first until
But then she said, "Forgive me," and that's when it disappeared. Then also, Reinhardt, when he first met Subaru, he was surprised, and maybe that's where Subaru saw no color in him.
Yeah.
Because he acted surprised, but maybe deep down he knew the only person that be doing is probably Subaru.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, in this story, whatever, I don't even think he met Subaru. Besides that first.
Yeah. Well, the first couple times I think.
At the loot house, I think that's the only time. Because
Yeah, that's
remember
the only time they
the
met.
training and all that with the sword and all that never happened.
Oh yeah, that's the only time they
That's
met.
crazy how that nigga Ron Hart is that fucking strong.
Hey,
That's never making me mad as fuck.
what
You
the?
shouldn't have a nigga that strong.
Reinhardt versus Zoro. Reinhardt wins.
Fuck no. What? Fuck no. Fuck nigga. Fuck no. You stupid. Zoro.
Reinhardt versus Zoro.
Read the manga.
The guy
Read
that
the
literally
the
did-
manga.
The guy that. Wait a
Read
second.
the
Can
manga.
Zoro be Akainu?
Yeah.
What the fuck? This nigga's capping.
Read
No,
the
he's
manga,
saying that because I haven't read the
Read the
manga.
manga.
No, hell no.
Oh God.
Zoro can be Akainu.
Yeah. Do you think Kaido could be that kind of?
Die. I
Shut the fuck
really
up.
can't answer that because I don't even know
Okay, I'm
Kaido's
saying
power.
emperor. I'm saying you see an admiral and an emperor. You seen what Shanks did to admiral.
Oh.
You see what Whitebeard did to the admiral.
Oh.
Yeah, you see what them Yonko
So you tell me
do.
Zoro beat Kaido?
I'm just saying, you see what.
Zoro beats Kaido.
You seen what Marco did to Kizaru? You see the commanders in the.
I saw what Garp did to Marco. Garp punched Marco.
Yeah, Marco was beating that.
Yeah, that's that strong as hockey shit. That nigga Marco got thrashed. Hey, so
This is a good story.
yeah, this
I
is,
like this shit.
yeah, I like this one too. It shows that it actually shows super.
Fuck Reinhardt.
I'm pretty sure when I first watched this, I didn't even finish the episode because of the spoilers.
Yeah, as soon as you see them niggas.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's why I stopped. Because I was watching it, I was like, oh, I remember him like making a team, whatever. I remember I didn't understand the importance of the stars, whatever, because Sin Archbishops, whatever, they're all named after stars.
Oh shit!
So said in the comments.
It was the 7 heavenly stars, and then
Yeah.
their actual names like Regulus Cornelius is a star.
Mhm.
That makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And then, but then yeah, so I'm pretty sure I stopped when I first was watching
That
this.
is a star, huh?
No.
No, it is. Beetlejuice is a star. It's a big ass red dwarf star.
For real?
Hell yeah, it is. I remember reading about that shit.
I just remember a comment telling us that it's what's it called? A comment telling us the Sin Archbishops are like all named after stars, whatever.
Yeah, nigga. Beetlejuice is you the 10th brightest star in the night sky.
Oh,
After
there we go.
Rigo.
So maybe if we look up other stars, we'll probably figure out the names of our characters, but I'm not going to do that. But yeah, so that was our reaction to the Raph F story. I think, well, we still had to watch the Lust one. Someone said watch that one last because it's bullshit. And then, we still got to watch Lust, and then we got to watch the Ram one, or the Ram one. And then the Gluttony one too. The Gluttony one too. We got to watch that. But hey. So that's our reaction to the Raph F story. So you know what to do, like, type content, make sure you like, subscribe.
Comment, share.
And turn post notifications on.
MBK out.